cobblestone street is lined with brightly painted wooden stalls, all selling the same thing: pot. Tibetan prayer flags hang from the art-covered buildings as people from all walks of life mingle in the market below. Freetown Christiania is an anarchist community in the heart of Copenhagen, where cars are prohibited and the Danish government has allowed the unregulated sale of pot and other drugs to occur for decades. Welcome to the Trap Tree series.
Had begun serving a fruit.
As a member of the Zion
Brain on drugs.
Today, we're going to tell the story of an idealist commune's battle with organized crime groups over control of an open-air pot market.
Like drawing, like everything we like. It's kindergarten.
Picture this. It's 1971 and counterculture movements around the world are on the rise, and a group of activists stumble upon an abandoned military barracks. They saw a future, and so Freetown Christiania was born, evolving rapidly into a sprawling commune. It quickly became a symbol of alternative living. The introduction and eventual dominance of the pot trade in Christiania was less about commerce and more about making a statement. This was a time when challenging societal norms was a lifestyle. Pot in Christiania became a symbol of this rebellion. Selling and using it openly was a way to defy the established order. As Christiania's reputation as an anarchist community grew, so did the presence of pot. What began as a few discreet sales soon blossomed into a full-blown market called Pusher Street. But Christiania has never been all about drugs. It's a thriving hub of creativity, buzzing with life and artistry. Think of cozy cafes where conversations flow, workshops where hands mold clay, galleries that showcase the art of the community, and countless music venues. This is where tourists and locals alike converge, drawn by an environment that's as relaxed as it is exciting. But it wouldn't all be smooth sailing. Christiania's journey has been controversial, to say the least. It's been a narrative of conflict and confrontation, specifically with organized crime and the Danish government. So let's go over some of the history. So Freetown Christiania origins are embedded deep in the spirit of a grassroots movement. A group of young idealist families converged on the abandoned military barracks. These early inhabitants were driven by the desire for communal living and escape from societal norms. They were setting the stage for the remarkable social experiment. The typical hierarchies of governance were absent and decisions were made collectively. Over time, Christiania's identity took form, sculpted by its residents. It became a beacon for the alternative lifestyle movement, yet this evolution wasn't without its trials. The community's very existence and practices, particularly the open pot trade on Pusher Street, brought them into conflict with the Danish government, challenging their autonomy and freedom. Despite the legal and societal challenge, Christiania endured. For over 50 years, it stood as the testament to the power of community, resistance, and alternative living. Now, let's turn our focus to Pusher Street. Known for its open pot trade, Pusher Street became a symbol of the community's liberal values, but also a magnet for controversy. In the early years following Christiania's establishment in the 1970s, the Danish government adopted a relatively hands-off approach. This wasn't necessarily due to the explicit approval, but stemmed from a mix of uncertainty on how to handle this emerging alternative community and a degree of tolerance for its counterculture ethos. Pusher Street, as a result, began to operate in a somewhat gray area. So part of the government's leniency can be attributed to a broader cultural tolerance prevalent in Denmark during those times. Christiania was seen to some extent as a social experiment, a manifestation of the era's radical ideals. Christiania's status as a cultural icon and its support among certain segments of the public also played a role in the government's approach. The community, including Pusher Street, had its advocates who valued its unique lifestyle and contribution to Copenhagen's diversity. This public support acted as a buffer against government action. The involvement of organized crime on Pusher Street, notably the Hells Angels, caused a shift from a peaceful community to a zone of conflict and tension. This period was marked by police raids and legal pressure from the Danish government. Efforts to dismantle the pot market often led to clashes with residents. The eternal struggles within Christiania, the debates over the nature of the trade, and the attempts to regulate it all painted a complex picture of a community grappling with its identity. But things were only going to get worse. Hard drugs in the 1980s. From its very inception in the early 1970s, Christiania declared itself as more than just an anarchist community. It was a vision of a communal, healthy, and sustainable way of life. Pot, which was seen as part of its alternative lifestyle, was tolerated. However, the community's approach to hard drugs was different. There was strict opposition, a clear line drawn in the sand, reflecting a commitment to the health and well-being of its residents. Enforcing this ban on hard drugs, however, has been a persistent battle. Christiania's open nature, coupled with an initial laissez-faire attitude, made the community vulnerable, especially in its formative years. The vulnerability opened the doors to the challenges that hard drugs brought along, particularly with the substance H. A gang called the Bullshit Motorcycle Club was formed in the late 1970s in Copenhagen, and was one of the first to infiltrate the free town. At this time, Bullshit MC was in a violent turf war with the Hells Angels, known as the Copenhagen Biker Wars. By 1984, Bullshit MC had control of the hash market in Christiania. The origins of this feud trace back to September 24, 1983, when members of Bullshit MC confronted Hells Angels at their local hangout in Copenhagen. The Hells Angels, led by Bent Swan Nielsen, the president of their Copenhagen chapter. A violent brawl ensued, resulting in the deaths of Soren Grabo Gronder and Flemming Hall Jensen from Bullshit MC. They were stabbed to death with knives and broken bottles. The violence escalated dramatically on May 25, 1984. Jorn Janke Nielsen, a high-ranking Hells Angel and co-founder of the Danish chapter, assassinated Henning Norbert Knudsen, the president of Bullshit MC, by firing 17 shots with a submachine gun into his car. Knudsen's wife, Pia Svoldved Larsen, was also in the car but narrowly survived the attack. The couple was reportedly on their way to sell pot, specifically hash, in Christiania. Following Knudsen's assassination, Palle Lebror Labjerg, excuse my pronunciation by the way, took over as the president of Bullshit MC. His presidency was short-lived. He was shot dead by a member of the Morticians MC, a Hells Angels support club, on April 26, 1985. The cycle of violence continued unabated. Bullshit MC's third president, Anker Walter Marcus, was assassinated along with an uninvolved civilian in a tavern managed by the club in Freetown, Christiania, December 21, 1985. This attack, executed by men in jogging suits, was later linked to two Hells Angels prospects and a fully patched member, Dan Ling, who were all convicted for the murders. In 1986, Bullshit member Jan Sandberg was executed in front of the gang's clubhouse by Hells Angels prospect Nick Jacobson. The attacks culminated in 1987 when a man was found chopped up under the floorboards of a home in Christiania. This sparked outrage among the peaceful residents, and through a combination of police initiatives and community action, the Bullshit Motorcycle Club was disbanded and kicked out of Christiania. Despite the residents standing together, the market for hard substances was still extremely profitable. Even when the Bullshit MC was removed from power, the Hells Angels remained. Although for several years their presence became more subtle, the intrusion of hard drugs into Christiania wasn't just a legal issue. It was a direct threat to the very fabric of the community. The ideals of health, safety, and mutual respect were jeopardized. Residents faced the grim realities of drug abuse, overdoses, health crises, and related crimes became pressing concerns, casting doubt over the community's utopian vision. In response, the community of Christiania continued taking active measures to purge the presence of hard substances. Community patrols, collaboration with the health authorities, and the awareness of campaigns were initiated. These efforts were a reassertion of Christiania's core values, a community standing up to protect its people. A critical aspect of Christiania's substance policy has been the clear distinction between pot and hard substances. While pot found a place within the community's liberal boundaries, hard substances were actively combated. And this distinction was vital in maintaining Christiania's identity and ensuring the safety and health of its residents. The issue of drug use in Christiania was not gone unnoticed by the Danish authorities, so police raids have been a common occurrence, targeting not just the pot trade but also aiming to dismantle the network that distribute the hard substances. Christiania's journey with hard substances has been a challenging aspect of its history. The community's consistent opposition to hard substances, despite its more open approach to pot, reflects deeper issues. This struggle is about a community striving to preserve its founding ideals in the face of complex realities. As a drug abuse rose, the influence of organized crime would return. Organized crime, 1990s to 2000s. So Christianity's open pot trade on Pusher Street was initially seen as an extension of personal freedom. However, as people from all over Europe began making their way to Christiania, the marketplace was getting more and more lucrative, and this caused an increase in competition and profit-seeking. By the early 1990s, involvement of the Hells Angels in Christiania was on the rise once again. This time they had their sights set on the pot trade, and this caused another significant shift in the community's dynamics, just like what had happened before in the early 1980s. Their influence on Pusher Street became increasingly apparent in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Their objective was clear: to gain control of the profitable pot market on Pusher Street. The increasing profitability and the battle for control of Pusher Street played the key role in another infamous turf war between biker gangs in Copenhagen, known as the Second Biker War, which was part of a larger gang conflict all over Scandinavia, known as the Nordic Biker War. And this time, the Hells Angels were clashing with the Bandidos for control of the drug market. This war was extremely violent and brutal. A hallmark of the Biker War was the use of military-grade grenades in attacks against rival clubhouses. These attacks resulted in significant destruction and caused fear not just within the biker community, but throughout Copenhagen. One of the most brazen incidents occurred at Copenhagen's Kastrup airport. The public shootout between the Hells Angels and the Bandidos highlighted the severity of the conflict and its blatant disregard for public safety. As the conflict intensified, its effects rippled into Christiania, when in 2005 there was a gang-related shooting that injured 3 men. Even after the war officially ended, in the years that followed, the violence and crime in Christiania continued. Periods of relative peace would be interrupted by violent gang clashes and police raids. Even when times were good, the presence of the Hells Angels or Pusher Street was always felt. And Pusher Street's transformation from a symbol of freedom to a hub of criminal activity was not sudden, but gradual. The Danish government's response to the rising influence of organized crime in Christiania has been focused on increased police raids and legal pressure. Now, Christiania faces a critical juncture. The rise of organized crime on Pusher Street, escalating violence, and increased government intervention paint a complex picture of the community's future. Will Pusher Street survive? On August 31st, 2016, in Christiania, a man believed to be involved in the pot trade opened fire after being stopped by the police. 2 police officers and a civilian were injured in the shooting, with one officer sustaining life-threatening head injuries. He survived but required extensive rehabilitation, while the other victims faced less severe injuries. The Copenhagen police responded with urgency, sealing off the entire neighborhood to apprehend the suspect. The perpetrator, a 25-year-old Danish citizen of Bosnian descent, known for violence and involvement in cannabis sales, was located in Kastrup. In a brief, intense encounter with the Special Intervention Police Unit, the gunman was seriously wounded and later died from his injuries in the hospital. This event was significant, as police officers in Denmark rarely sustained life-threatening injuries during criminal encounters. The last time a police officer was killed by a criminal in Denmark was in 1995. In response to this violence, the residents of Christiania held a communal meeting that made a decisive move. They resolved to dismantle the stalls in Pusher Street, the epicenter of Denmark's largest pot sales marketplace. This decision, executed on September 2nd, 2016, marked a turning point for Christiania. The residents also called on supporters and friends of the neighborhood to aid their efforts by refraining from purchasing flower in Christiania. 2 months following this pivotal decision, it was estimated that the practice of pot sales within Christiania had plummeted by approximately 75%, and this marked a significant shift in the community's approach to the cannabis trade, driven by the need to address the violence and criminal elements that had infiltrated the neighborhood. The residents' actions reflected a strong commitment to preserving the safety and integrity of their community in the face of adversity. However, 2023 witnessed an alarming rise in violence within Christiania, primarily associated with the pot trade. Clashes between the Hells Angels and new rival gangs and the community's residents have raised serious concerns about safety and the well-being of the inhabitants. Pusher Street has transformed into a battleground as a new group, Loyal to Familia, tries to take control of the drug trade from the Hells Angels. Now, Loyal to Familia, or LTF, is a street gang that originated in Denmark. It was founded in the Nørrebro district of Copenhagen around 2012-2013. Loyal to Familia quickly gained notoriety for their involvement in criminal activities, particularly in the drug trade, and became known for their internal discipline and aggressive tactics. Their expansion led them into conflicts with other established gangs like the Hells Angels and Christiania. The increase in gang-related incidents, including a fatal shooting of a 30-year-old gang member, has amplified the sense of crisis within Christiania. This surge in violence culminated in a decision by the community to seek government intervention to actually shut down Pusher Street. In response, the Danish government, led by Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, has introduced a comprehensive strategy to combat gang crime. And this plan includes 39 measures focusing on harsher punishments for gang-related crimes, extended police powers, and substantial financial allocation for anti-gang initiatives. The police also implemented stop and search zones in the parts of Copenhagen to curb gang violence. So picture it like this, it's a little bit like stop and frisk in the 90s in New York City, or that's what it kind of seems like, obviously in a much smaller scale. The current situation in Christiania signals a departure from its utopian dream, as envisioned when it was founded in 1971. With the community request for government help to close Pusher Street, a fundamental shift in Christiania's approach to self-governance and autonomy is evident. The government's new stance, while aimed at restoring safety and order, raises questions about the future identity of Christiania, its ability to maintain its unique cultural and social fabric. Now, Christiania's struggle with organized crime and the subsequent government intervention marks the turning point in the history of this iconic community. The actions taken by the government and the community's response in the coming days will shape the future of Christiania's, potentially redefining its role as a symbol of alternative living. And can a legal exception zone like Freetown Christiania really be a viable harm reduction policy? Or will they always become breeding grounds for organized crime and hard drug use? And really, we have to look at the legality of this, right? If they were to legalize pot everywhere, I think that would definitely take some of the pressure off of it. And so we'll just have to see how this all turns out. But I think at the end of the day, Christiania represented a very, very beautiful, initial idea with cannabis and other alternative living, showcasing to the rest of the country and the world that this is just another alternative way of living and that this is, potentially harmless. But because it was illegal and there's a free zone, everything illegal, including the hard drugs, really has tainted and corrupted the area, unfortunately. Anyways, do you guys think it's possible for an anarchist community to govern itself peacefully? I would love to know your comments down below. And as always, thank you for watching. Please make sure to hit the like button, share this with your friends, spread the word, it means a lot. Also make sure to follow us on all the social medias. The links are down below in the description. Also make sure to join our High Design streaming platform. It is 100% free to sign up. There's also a paid version, but you're gonna get access to a bunch of Trap Tree series episodes that are unreleased and only available on that platform. So guys, please go check it out. Go to www.highdesign.media, sign up, check it out, let me know. Anyways, guys, big shouts out to Christiania and big shouts out to you for making it to the end of this video. Anyways, this is LMC. Signing out.